Next, I wanted to mention G-Eazy. I mentioned it briefly on the Random Show. If you're not tuned into the Random Show, the #1 comedy commentary live stream out there in the world, check it out. Random Show can be found at Random Show AZ on YouTube. Just type in Random Show, my name. You're sure you're going to find it, or just go to my YouTube channel and you'll see the Random Show linked at the top there so you can check it out. I spoke about this briefly and I just want to speak about it again because this particular clip I'm going to play of G-Eazy sitting down with Bootleg Kev, he speaks a little bit about the troubles and the struggles of being an artist on a record label and the never-ending cycle of the record label wanting another hit from you. Every time you drop a hit, you know, you're never as good as your next hit, sort of thing. So he kind of speaks about how that was difficult. But the one thing I got from this, looking at him, was that clearly G-Eazy is struggling with just, you know, managing everything, because he looks really fucked up. He looks rough as fuck. G-Eazy's always been a bit of a party boy anyway. He's always been somebody, you know, that kind of likes to enjoy himself. But it seems like he's probably doing it to some level of excess, I'd assume. His voice sounds like somebody that's been on the gear for a while, has been on the flipping session for a while. His face looks very bloated. He obviously looks like he hasn't been asleep. He hasn't been sleeping for much long as well. It's actually astonishing that he made this interview, because I listened to this podcast called How Long Gone, and they booked G-Eazy one time, maybe a couple of months ago actually, and he ended up flaking last minute. So he's known to do that, I'm assuming, because, you know, he's clearly having his fun, and when you have your fun you can sometimes be a little bit unreliable. So I'm surprised he actually made this interview, maybe because he respects Bootleg Kev and he's a kind of mainstay in hip-hop journalism and shit, so he kind of wanted to show out for him. But he's been a little bit all over the place. So although I like what he says here about the record industry, it's really sad to see what he kind of looks like, because he's clearly you know, he's clearly going through something. So hopefully he's okay and he manages things, but he looks really, really rough.
And otherwise you want to put it out.
I mean, I'll say it like this. Like, you know, I get it. Like, you go to McDonald's, you know, you want your Big Mac or your, you know, the fact that McDonald's doesn't really taste like it did in the 90s anymore kind of messes me up. Like, but
that random segue is the classic. It's a classic sort of chat you'd hear in someone's random kitchen somewhere and afters. That's that 4 a.m. afters chat, you know? It's kind of wild how, like, McDonald's doesn't taste like how it used to in the 90s. What? Is it kind of wild? Or is it just 2025? Like, what? It's the kind of conversation topic when you're fucking yacked out your mind sounds incredibly interesting. Like, yeah, man, that's true. Yeah, McDonald's doesn't taste the same, right? It's like, what?
You know, if I want a Coca-Cola, I don't want it to suddenly come in a purple can and taste like Sprite. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this is not just like product. This is art. And, you know, two things. For one thing is this, like, you keep thinking like, all right, after the second album, if I win again, I'll be able to make what I want to make. Right. And not saying it was necessarily that, but it's like, you kind of feel like, all right, maybe, okay, fine then. If I go platinum 3 albums in a row, then I'll finally have bought myself the freedom.
Like, I could just get some shit off.
I could just get some shit off, whether that's me just doing like 90s hip hop shit, or whether that's me trying to experiment with some shit like this. I bought myself that freedom. No, you never do. They just want what they just want.
That's kind of tragic, isn't it? That's kind of tragic if true. I believe him, but that's kind of tragic. No matter how hot your last record was, the record industry just wants another one, and another one, and another one. It's a never-ending demand for a hit record. And hit records don't just happen like that. You don't just make them, because you don't just decide, okay, I want a hit record, and you just make one, right? Sometimes it's happen chance, sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's luck, right? So the fact that they just keep wanting hit records from you is fucking insane. When they don't come about, you know, sometimes an artist is lucky to have one hit record. G-Eazy's had several, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you're lucky even to have one in your entire career. But record industries want you to keep repeating that same fucking feat again and again and again, which is damn right impossible, really. Everyone has their ups and downs, but record industry or record labels don't really understand or care about that whatsoever. They just put more stresses and demands on the artist, which then maybe leads them to abuse stuff like, you know, alcohol and fucking multivitamins and shit, as maybe fucking G-Eazy has been doing.
Like, and that's not like a bad thing, because at the end of the day, this thing we get to do, we have this privilege to do, is the highest honor. You know, like the fact that I fell in love with something and I get to do that thing I'm in love with for a living, and I get to get money with my homies.
Yeah.
I'm of the luckiest people on the planet.
For sure.
So refreshing to hear him say that. It doesn't get said enough, honestly. With all the complaints that could be had around the record industry, what I just levied, and he's obviously spoken about himself, he still needs to be reminded that, hey, it's a pretty cushy job. It's a pretty cushy role that you got yourself, you know, where you're able to kind of support yourself and your family by doing exactly what you love, you know? It's not too bad. It's not too bad. You get to create music. You get to create these amazing experiences and moments for people. You get to kind of leave your mark on the fucking timeline of musical history. You know, music can kind of live far, far, far past the fucking, you know, the day you die and shit. It's fucking incredible, really. It's a real gift. So I'm glad that G-Eazy was able to kind of emphasize just how lucky he is to be a somewhat relevant artist that people give a fuck about. And also be able to touch so many people and just create music the way he does. It's a gift. It's a fucking blessing. But it obviously has its downsides. But it's still a fucking pretty sweet gig.
And I'm incredibly appreciative of the job I do, because everybody has a job. They go to work. Not everybody gets to like their job.
Right.
This is work.
Right.
So who am I to think I could fuck off my job?
Right.
You know, but there's the art side of it that's like, you know, what if something's in my heart that I want to try? Andre doesn't want to rap anymore. He wants to play flute.
Got a Grammy.
I think Andre earned the right to walk around in black cement threes. You feel me? A backpack and carry a flute. Yeah. If Andre wants to, Andre gets to. You feel me? He's that GOAT.
For sure.
But there's still people that's like banging on him to, you feel me, come back and rap.
Right. No, for sure.
And rightfully so. That's fine. That's how it goes. It is what it is. The second,
he kind of looks like Lush, innit? I'm not gonna lie. He's making a lot of good points here, but I just look at him thinking, fuck, man. He kind of looks like Lush. You know, Lush from No Jumper. He's got that kind of look about him. And we know Lush is on, you know, Lush is on some mad shit. So I hope G-Eazy isn't on too much mad shit, but he looks like he's going through it.
aspect was this. COVID shutting the world down was such a jarring thing for me, because, you know, I understand like it was hard for a lot of people. You know, I uniquely and fortunately, you know, had, you know, financially and everything was in a position where for the first time in my professional career, I could kind of fuck off.
For sure.
You feel me? Because it's like, it's a hamster wheel of like, you know, in the studio, make an album. Tour, get right back in. You feel me? Like, put it out, promo, press run, tour, get right back in. There's no breaks. There's no...
Yeah, you had like a 5-year... I mean,
like
longer
6,
than 5 years. It was like, I was going to say...
But even prior to that, it was the grinding to
the
get
indie grind,
there.
yeah.
So really like 2010 to 20.
Nonstop,
I was living out of suitcases, tour to tour to tour.
It's kind of fascinating he says that, isn't it? I never thought about it that way. Maybe for some artists, maybe for some people, depending on their profession, COVID was actually a blessing, because there was a one time they got to stop. It was one time they got to pause. It was one time they got to smell the roses. It was the one time they got to take time for themselves. You know? It was actually a refreshing time. It was actually a very important time. It actually made them see things for how they actually are. Maybe make some different adjustments and plans and whatever it may be for their future. I never actually thought about that way. For a lot of us, myself included, COVID was the worst of times, right? It kind of filled everything up for a loop, and some of us are still trying to fucking, you know, gather the pieces up from that entire time and make sense of the world that we're now in. But for G-Eazy being an artist, he actually slyly enjoyed COVID because it gave him an excuse to stop. It gave him a reason to stop without getting maybe penalized or in trouble by the label. Fascinating.
You feel me? If I had a couple pairs of black jeans, a black leather jacket, and some black t-shirts and toiletries, socks and drawers, you feel me?
Right.
And some Jordans, I'm good to be G-Eazy. I don't need anything more than that, because all I know is work. But it had drained me, you know, and I think you could kind of hear it in the music. You could see it on my face.
We can definitely see something on your face, brother. we can definitely see something on your face. You can actually hear it in his voice. Those of you who are party boys and party girls or day dems in betweens, you know what I mean. You can hear the party in his voice. You can definitely hear it.
You know, I was just like, when do I get to breathe? And all of a sudden, the world stops, and I don't have sessions booked every day, 6 days out of the week with different producers every single day, where I'm expected to go in and make 3 songs, 4 songs a night, you know, and try to get the label happy, get management happy. You feel me? Deliver I was exhausted.
I feel like that was something like for you where, like, I remember kind of being around you, being in some of these sessions at that time, where it was like, it's like, all right, but we need another one of these.
God.
But we got to make another No Limit. Or we got to make another.
Okay, let me just put my thinking hat on and make it a little No Limit.
But
so big up G-Eazy. That was actually a really good interview. Like I said, it's unfortunate that he looks the way he does. He's currently probably, I'm assuming, going through it and trying to just manage and make sense of the world and trying to keep his head above water like the rest of us. But I'm hoping it's just a little bit of a phase and he kind of, gets his act together in some respects and maybe gets stuff into some level of control. I'm all for really allowing yourself to have a bit of fun, but not letting the fucking drugs get the best of you, Enjoying your extracurricular activities somewhat responsibly, That's the main game. It's very hard to do. It's hard to find that balance. It's almost impossible maybe to find a balance, but you have to try. You can't let it consume you. You can't let it take over your life. You can't let it draw, kind of grind you down. You can't lose hope. You have to kind of figure out a way that kind of works for you. And hopefully G-Eazy will at some point figure it out, because I personally still think he's a really great artist. I think that album he dropped last year, I forgot the name of it, the title, but it had a cover of him with a sort of like kiss makeup on his face. I thought that was pretty hard, but it didn't really get any kind of ratings or kind of love, I don't think. But yeah, I still think he's got the potential to kind of come back and be the artist that he once was, and maybe make the pivot, maybe make a pivot in terms of genre. Maybe he's gonna go Machine Gun Kelly style and start making pop punk. I don't know, but I like him, so hopefully he gets his stuff together. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets his stuff together.